I'm Donna Duncan, the Urban Stitcher. Welcome to my sewing room. This is the first of several short videos on how I create my free motion thread sketches. In this first video, we'll look at the products and the tools that I use. There will be a list at the end, so no need to take notes. I hope you find it helpful. Most all of my thread sketches start with a fabric foundation. And I've used many fabrics and they all work if they're stabilized properly. But this is my favorite. It's a 10-ounce extra heavy duty painter's drop cloth. You can buy it in most any hardware store and in many different sizes. I like it because it has a heavy weave. It almost looks like a painter's canvas. And the heavy fabric holds up to many stitches. I also like it because you can paint on it. I can add a little acrylic or watercolor paints and it turns out nicely. You just cut off the size you need, press out any wrinkles in the fabric, and you're ready to stabilize. Stabilizers are an important part of every successful thread sketch. There are 3 stabilizers that I use to start every thread sketch I do, regardless of the size. On the back of my fabric, I use 2 tearaways. One is a self-adhesive. The backing just peels away, and then it just adheres to my fabric on the back side. You can tear it away after your stitching is complete, but this self-adhesive stays pretty well, and as long as it's not wrinkled or puckered in any way, I'll leave it on there. The second stabilizer, tearaway stabilizer on the back, is just a medium weight. There's no adhesive. It sort of looks like a roll of paper towels, and it tears very easily. I layer this on top of the self-adhesive stabilizer on the back. Oftentimes this stabilizer will become wrinkled in the process and I'll tear it away at the end. It just depends. Each one is different. So those are the 2 that I use on the back. On the front of my fabric, I'll use one of these 2 water-soluble, transparent film stabilizers. One is Sulky Solvy and the other is Madeira Avalon film. This stabilizer is clear, and it's what I use to transfer my image to the fabric. Typically, I will draw my image onto this clear film using a Sharpie Ultra Fine Point permanent marker. Once I have the very basic lines that I need to do my stitching, I will take this to the sewing machine, follow those basic lines, and then I take it to the sink, and under running water, this film, along with the permanent marker, dissolves away, and all you have are the basic lines that you need to complete your picture. In the next video, we'll look at how I transfer the image, how I use my pictures or a photograph and which lines I use to transfer to the fabric. I use a variety of threads when I'm creating a thread sketch, so I'll talk about some of the things that I like about these threads and which needles I use when I'm creating a thread sketch. My favorite thread is the rayons. They just have a beautiful sheen to them and a nice twist that holds up. They're just my favorite threads. I also use a lot of polyester. The sheen may not be quite as nice, but it's still a quality thread, a good twist. All of these are 40 weight. I buy these in the economy size because I often like to fill my bobbin with these threads, and I don't feel like I'm wasting my money or my thread in the bobbin. That's when I want to use a matching thread for one reason or another, and we'll address that in a different video. I use cotton threads as well. I had mentioned before these are 40 weight. These cottons are 50 weight. And in threads, when you're talking about the weight, a higher number indicates a finer thread. These So these 50 weight threads are a little bit finer than the polyester 40 weights and the rayon 40 weights. But I really like these cotton threads too. I guess I would use these for like in bark or in bricks, something that I don't perhaps care about the shine quite as much. And that's not to diminish the quality of these threads. They're really nice threads and I like using them. I also like using metallics. Metallics can be problematic, so when I find one that works on my machine, I buy it and I continue to buy it. This is a Gutermann metallic. It's really beautiful and it sews very nicely. I have no problem sewing with this on my machine. The Mylars are also very nice, but I have they're a little more problematic. I can add maybe a few sparkles here and there with this Mylar, but I have not had success in sewing just straight sewing with these Mylars. On the Mylar threads, I will also often use a 9014 embroidery needle. The 9014 works nicely with the canvas, but also has a larger eye that will allow the metallics and the Mylars to move through more trouble-free. I typically will use an 8012 embroidery needle, machine embroidery needle, and with the rayons, the 40 weight rayons. And I can use the same needle with the cottons as well. But the 1175 will also work for the cottons. It's a smaller eye and the finer thread will move through just fine. I will sometimes use a Microtex, which is also called a Sharp. The machine embroidery needle has a slightly rounded tip. You wouldn't notice by looking at it. But the Sharp, I like it when I'm sewing on paper. It creates a smaller hole that heals more easily after the needle has penetrated the paper. So those are the products that I like using for needles and threads. I encourage you to use try other varieties because these are just the ones that I've landed on. I have to say a thing or two about the sewing machine. I have a beautiful Bernina machine that I love, and it will do many, many things, but you can do thread sketching with the most basic machines. If you can drop the feed dog and you have a darning or a quilting foot, then you can make a thread sketch. I hope you found something in this video that will help you get started with free motion thread sketching. There are many great products not mentioned here, so my most important tip is to experiment and have fun. In my next video, I will demonstrate how I transfer the image to the fabric. That video should be ready soon, and when it is, you can find it on my Urban Stitcher Facebook page or a link at urbanstitcher.com. Thank you for watching.